Hey guys and girls, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is Lawrence's Saberforge Heretic. This is going to be a relatively quick video. It's a simple project. This was a broken in-hilt LED, relatively low tier Heretic that Lawrence had. He sent me, he wanted to upgrade to Neopixels. And the plan for this guy was to do just a budget build upgrade to Neopixels, trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible to keep the price down and to reuse the same parts whenever possible, and not to change the overall look or aesthetic, but to just, give it the newest and best technology. So that's what we did here. I'm happy with how it came out. Just about to send it off to Lawrence, so I wanted to do a quick video and make sure it was good first. So let's run through what we did. This is the chassis. Standard chassis you get from Saberforge. I upgraded the battery to an LG HG2 18650, which is 3000 milliamp hours, 20 amp. It's got the same speaker, which is a 28mm premium bass speaker. It had standard Saberforge electronics. I think it was a lower tier. I'm not positive on that though. But we put in a Proffieboard, and I added a kill switch because this didn't have a recharge port with a built-in kill switch in it that you'd use a kill key on. This had a USB port for recharging. So we wanted to save the USB port, not change this part. But if you don't have a kill switch here, then you need to do something, otherwise you're gonna drain and or ruin your battery when you just let the saber sit idle. So I put a little kill switch here, and actually USB access is right here, and the SD card is right there. So now the recharge is still the USB, and Lawrence, I'm going to include these two recharge options for you. This one is my typical dummy cell style recharge adapter. So if you have a lithium battery charger at home, a single cell charger, you can take this and just stick it into the charger as if this was a lithium battery. The red side would be the positive side. And then plug this end into the USB port like so, and then you can just operate your charger as you ordinarily would. Set the timing, the amperage, the current, whatever, and check the voltage until you know it's fully charged. And the charger will think that this is a battery, and it will just act like that is a battery and try to charge it, and in doing so it'll send the current into the saber. I'm also including a standard wall plug type with a USB end, and this is the same. You would just connect it there and then plug this into the wall. The downside of these type of chargers is that you don't get any information with these. In my experience with these, they're really more of an annoyance than they are helpful. You get this little tiny LED down in the corner, and if it's green it's charged, and if it's red it's not charged. But that doesn't tell you what the charge is, how close to full you are, or how close to empty you are, or how much longer you have to wait, or anything like that. It just, it does the job in a pinch. So I'm going to include this so I know you have a way to charge this guy. I also have it fully charged to 4.2 volts now, so when you receive it, it will be fully charged for you. And then this guy can charge it if you need to charge it more. But I would definitely advise using this adapter and a high quality lithium single cell battery charger like the Opus BTC 3100 or the XTAR X4. Those are my two go-tos. I use the Opus in my workshop. I've got 3 of them. It's a 4-bay charger. It's very fairly priced. It's very safe. You charge 4 batteries at 1 amp per hour each, or 2 batteries at 2 amps, or 1 battery at 2 amps. And you can go all the way down to 100 milliamps charge, like a trickle charge, 200, 300, 500, 700, 1000. So it's really got a lot of power, a lot of speed, but it can go slow too. But it's really safe and reliable. I've been using mine for years and years and years, literally like 7 years. Still works great, never had a problem with it. It's a really good smart charger. The X-Tar X4 I haven't personally used, but the specs on it are good, and it's somewhat comparable to the Opus in its ability to charge fast. It's a high amp charger, so it's another good solution, and it's a little bit less expensive than the Opus. Neither one is terribly expensive. I think the Opus is probably $40 on average, and the X-Tar is probably $30 on average. So I would do the Opus, but just those are your 2 best options for a lithium battery charger if you don't have one. If you do have one, then you're good. Back to the Saber. We have 1 button on this guy, so I set this up with the 1-button prop protocol. So what we do here to turn the Saber on, turn the main power switch on, and then just push the button. Press and hold. Maybe. Press and hold to turn it off. You have to push this guy down quite a bit to actually really activate the plunger in it. To toggle to the next button, you press and release, but you have to hold it for half a second, so it's kind of like a medium length press. Let's try that again. Like that. That toggles to the next button. I mean the next blade. Let me grab the hex wrench. Right now we have blade retention right here. This is the original blade plug, Saberforge standard, stuck PCB blade connector on the bottom and Neopixels inside, and that mates with another stock Neopixel blade connector in here with a TCSS blade connector housing that's been custom drilled out so that all the pins have holes for it, and this guy simply just pops in there to connect up. Blade on this guy, I did a 1-inch. I started with a 7/8 inch and then opted for the 1-inch because it just felt and looked better on this hilt. I'm not sure why. I almost always, almost in every case, do a 7/8 inch blade on all my sabers, but this one, just the balance and the weight of it, it feels better with the 1-inch, and the overall look of it, I don't know, I think it's because it's a simple hilt. It's very uniform in width, and it's kind of uniform through the blade. It doesn't change. It's got the feel of kind of like a katana or something, you know, just a uniform, straight, classy, sort of simplified saber. So I think that's kind of why I personally like the 1-inch blade on this guy. But it's not a huge deal either way. I'm going to reset it so we can jump back to the first blade. First blade is green on this guy because this was originally a green in-hilt LED lightsaber. So I figured we'd just stick with the color scheme. Sorry. Come on, button. The button, before I move on, is a green illuminated LED button, and I configured that to pulse slowly when the saber's off, and then to come on full blast when it's on. and that could be configured any way you want, really. It's up to you, but I think that's kind of a classy way to go about it. Back to the blades. So the first one's green, and that's muted. To activate the blade muted, you simply have to double tap when you start it. So, like that, and then it starts muted. That way you can play with it in the middle of the night and not bother your neighbors. This is standard. All the fonts, all the sound fonts are smooth swing, and all some of my very favorites. Really good sensitivity and control on this one. I spent about 8 hours last week just going through like 16 of my most commonly used fonts and adding a few more new ones and tightening up, tweaking, adding smooth swing to all of them, moving around and changing some of the swings and the stab sounds, and just generally upgrading all the fonts that I usually work with a lot. And this guy, I think, has benefited a lot from that, because this has got all the newest fonts and the newly modified fonts on it. So hopefully, Lawrence, you like them. But I will show you guys as we go. Second blade color is blue. Really good smooth swing on this one. Next up we have cyan. This is a blue-white audio flicker blade that kind of comes across as silver. It's got a really slow retraction and ignition. And it matches up with the sound font. The sound font is a cornhorn font, so thus the silver blade on it. Love that. Next one up, we've got a kind of a distressed green blade. It's, no, not distressed, unstable. It's a green-white audio flicker blade. Really great blaster block sound effects on this one. Great smooth swing on it. Next up is a dark orange. And the purple. is a white and yellow audio flicker blade that comes across as kind of a, not unstable, but kind of a bright, intense, flickery sunlight color. And it's got a lot of blue in the effects to give it a lot of contrast, which I love. Really cool kind of futuristic sound font. Sometimes the button sticks a little bit though, and that's just a function of the button that we have here. It's spring loaded. It doesn't have an actual pressure activated actuator inside there. It's just a spring and some contacts. So if the spring sticks on the way down, it kind of double activates the button, which is why sometimes I have a problem shutting it off. But it's one of those things you get used to with use, so don't worry too much about that, Lawrence. You'll get the hang of this button, and it won't be a big deal. In fact, you probably already are, since it's the same original button. This is a red blade with Swarm, very Vader-esque.
The circuit is now complete.
Next up, we've got the electricity blade. Next up is white to green turbine blade. Love that sound effect. This sound font just matches this blade so well. I love that. This is a green Jedi Fireblade. And second to last, I think, is a red Fireblade. And then a POV blade. And this guy's fun for a couple reasons. Because if you're outside and it's dark out and you wave it around, it looks like kind of like tiki torch juggling. If you ever go to Hawaii and you see like have one of those luau's outside and they juggle fire and stuff, it's very reminiscent of how it looks. But it's meant to be a persistence of view blade to create the Star Wars logo by waving it side by side over your head from right to left, just once. And if you take a picture of it with a slow 1 second exposure and you time it just right, in the picture you'll have a giant glowing Star Wars logo above your head. It's very cool. I've pulled it off a couple of times. It looks great. It really does work. But unfortunately you can't see it until you see the picture, but that's okay. I mean, you can't have everything, right? Where would you keep it? And that's about it. Like, we're back to the original blade. And that's the Saberforge Heretic upgrade. So Lawrence, I hope you like it. Let me know. I will get it in the mail tomorrow, so you have it for Halloween. Provided you're cool with everything about it, you don't need to do any tweaks. If there's a minor tweak, we can deal with that later down the road if you want. If it's a software tweak, we can do it via the interweb, so we don't have to wait, because I know you're in a hurry to get it back. And just always remember when you're done with it to turn it off, because otherwise your battery will be dead the next time you go to see it. And yeah, that's about it for now. Thank you guys for watching. I've got a whole bunch of more good stuff coming up. Especially, I'm going to do a quick side-by-side comparison video with a genuine vintage Graflex and a brand new replica Graflex, because it's really kind of hard to tell the difference these days, and that's a good thing, because the reason it's hard to tell is because all of the replicas that are being made these days, you know, like the Roman Props ones, the Parks one, you know, the custom Saber Shop ones, they're really good. Like, they really aren't cutting corners anymore. They really are doing a great job getting it just right. They're getting to the point where they're so good that it's hard to tell the difference between a genuine vintage Graflex, a real one, and a replica. And that's a great thing, because replicas are a lot less expensive for us. And there's a really great source for them. You know, you can get as many as you want, whereas the vintage ones there's a finite amount of them out there, and they're not inexpensive. They are very expensive, very hard to find, especially in great condition. But the problem is, when you want the vintage one and you really want it, you know, to spend that extra money and to do it all the way, it can sometimes be hard to find a real one. And then if you find the real one, are you sure it is a real one? It's not just a replica that somebody's taken some steel wool to and made it look vintage, because there's a lot of that going on out there. So I will take some time to kind of go through it with you guys and show you, you know, what to look for to make a, you know, to actually be sure you've got a real one versus a replica, because you don't want to lose $500, $600, $700, $800, you know, when the only difference is the authentic nature, because the quality of the replica versus the vintage is essentially identical these days with how good they're making them. So that's coming up for sure. And then a vintage Graflex Fulmer masterpiece build with a metal master with the spinning crystal chamber should be coming up shortly after that. And the two Ahsokas are, I think, probably next. So stay tuned. Thank you guys as always for watching.